Seventh and final segment about, let's see if this works, about making Rachel's violin purse. And it's been several days since I videotaped, so I forgot exactly where I left off, but putting all the fine details on was a challenge. I can't put a pin or a needle in this pigskin, and I usually sew the beads on, but I had to glue them on, and I figured something out. First you glue them onto a piece of felt and then cut around the felt the shape that you want it, and then you glue the felt on, but there's still the problem of glue everywhere. I need a class in gluing. So I usually, here's Rachel's daughter's purse. I usually hand sew this on, but the button in the back of this purse into this pigskin, that took me over an hour to sew that on. And yes, I drew blood. It's got pieces of threads on it from my table, but so gluing was tough. At the very last minute, I figured out I could cover some glue a little bit with a black Sharpie. That solved one of my problems. I was horrified how much glue came out, and I try to use as little glue as possible, and I started out using this flexible gel glue. It says permanent, flexible, washable, whatever, and after a few days everything started falling off, so I re-glued it mostly on at the leather store. I re-glued it back on with E6000. That's also supposed to be clear and flexible and stick to the leather. We'll see. I hope I don't get an email that the whole thing fell apart. But so I re-glued most of it. I'm worried just a segment of this has not fallen off with that first glue yet. So I'll just let Rachel know that E6000 if that falls off, and not to do it herself. She doesn't want glue all over her fingers while she's practicing concertos. Another problem was the way that Rachel holds this, kind of sideways on her wrist. I was worried about it getting misshapen more than the vertical large ones I usually have. So I bought a very thick piece of leather, cut it, and put it around here, but I had already sewed the lining closed, and so I had to make a second bottom of velvet, and some of it I glued down. It was just too hard to reach to sew on the inside. So what I did, I talked about in the last video, I think I bought a very thick piece of leather, kind of like this, but bigger, put it inside. I wet it completely, let it mostly dry. I put it in a plastic bag for a while it was drying inside of this, so it would dry in this shape, and then put it in my hot car for a day and let it dry in that shape. And then I tried to build another velvet lining over it on the inside. Oops, I just remember there's a surprise in there. There's a little wallet. And here is the sequence that Rachel originally asked for. That's kind of a teaser. I bought her matching purple sunglasses for fun. I was opening this to show you the lining. You really can't see it, but I sewed in a second velvet lining on top, and for places I couldn't reach, I glued in. I'm sure she'll be able to see spots. So that one problem solved is it won't go out of shape when she holds it with heavy things in different directions. Another problem solved partly was cover the glue up with black Sharpie, and then another problem, the beads falling off, change glue. And initially I actually started with Monster or Gorilla Glue. I thought that worked on everything. And then the nightmare I had was this zipper was so wavy, and open up it looks a little wavy. But finally, like the night before last night, I stayed up all night because, sorry, I'm trying to zip this with one hand. it's pretty straight now. There's a few little ways, but pretty darn good. What I thought of is it called horsehair? I sewed it into my wedding dress. In those days in the fabric store, they actually had experts that knew how to sew. You wouldn't believe when I go in and ask a question. At the fabric store, I pretty much know more than most people there. Usually, not always, but I did not keep this flower kind of out of the way and glue it. It's pinned on, but not completely glued on, because just in case Rachel doesn't like it, I love it myself, she can just unpin it and put something else on. So I put this, I think it's called horsehair, or I can't turn it. I sewed this by hand. I went up and down the sides of the zippers, very stiff. In the olden days, it was horsehair, and it goes in the hem of a wedding dress if you want it to flow and have a large flowing shape on the floor. It goes into the hem, and this professional seamstress that worked at the sewing store taught me that for my own wedding dress. And so there's a few tiny things, but they're not much. And when that hangs over, it covers it, but compared to how it was, it's great. I'm very satisfied. And then there was a question of stamping versus heat burning Rachel's name into this, and I tried to use my heat burning letters to stamp, and I rigged up something and pounded them in and made quite a mess the way I did it, and it didn't look that impressive, so I tried to heat stamp it in on top. Oh, the reason why, because to buy a letter set, just a letter set to pound in, it would be over $30, and I used to have one. I searched the house 20 times in the attic. Maybe I gave it away finally. But so I burned it in, but it still didn't show up that well, so I was listening to leather talks on YouTube's, and it said you can do acrylic paint on leather pretty well. So that worked out nicely, because I made it purple, I guess not exactly matching, but coordinating. And then I had fun. I should have made deeper holes, because these can fall off if they're sticking out more, and they are. I was scared that I might make a mistake and just make a big holy mess in it, so I stopped. But so I put these diamond, they're not real diamonds, what are crystals, whatever they're called, rhinestones, fake rhinestones, or rhinestones are fake. And they both fell out initially because the wrong glue, so I redid it with E6000, and hopefully that works. Same thing with a rhinestone I put on one of these butterflies in the back. It finally fell out. I'm glad it did it before it arrived as a gift, but I still worry about that, but I'll warn them. And the tuning pegs, the insides are twisted pins, very strong pins, that I found that were long enough to go through these rock-like pegs, or rock-like tuning pegs. So I put some extra jewelry backing on it to try to cover the point so no one will get hurt on it. And what else? I thought, I don't know if their husband or her husband is playful, but I made a matching, and it was very hard with this stiff pigskin suede, a matching bow tie. I don't know if they'll pose, and that's the way this is a little bit misshapen because the only purple sunglasses I could find for a little one were quite big when they were closed. So I thought that gave them more options for posing and more exposure for my violin with a husband and a bow tie and purple glasses inside. We'll see. So I already got an email from Rachel to say this is like Christmas. She can't wait. She's very excited, and I'm excited. I just hope nothing falls apart. after she receives it. So that was a big job, but a fun job. If I made a third one, if somebody orders pretty quickly, it'll be pretty perfect, because I haven't made a handmade one in a while. Everybody's ordering the manufactured ones, or mostly, or ones that I made quite a while ago, already made up. I've got the price quite a bit cheaper, minimum wage. And what was I already forgot what I was in the middle of saying. Oh, if I make a third one, if somebody orders right away, it will be perfect, because I've run into every single mistake. Mistake with the zipper. Oh, initially I did put a lining in, but I didn't use the stiffest lining I have, and I think the lining stretched right along with the leather, and even though you can't even put a pin in it, it's stretchy, and so I ripped out the zipper 3 times, and each time it still was wavy and stretched out. And then I did this perfectly. I learned my lesson first try. So if you order pretty quickly a handmade one, it'll be pretty darn perfect. Thank you for listening. I don't know if anyone will have listened this far, but signing out. This is Becky Chaffee of Violets by Becky.